What's going on, everybody? I'm track announcer Matt Dinerman here in the Oaklawn Today studios. It's now time for another edition of Out of the Starting Gate, and we've got some new material we're going to talk about here. We're going to start, of course, with Oaklawn-based material. We're going to go over some big performances from last week. I've got a number of hidden gems for you, horses that had trips that maybe weren't as desirable than they needed to be. Maybe you have a couple in here that I think can improve with more racing, younger horses. We're also going to talk about Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks. It's now getting into that season, the last round of prep races to get these Oaks and Derby points before the top 3-year-old Colts and Geldings and the top 3-year-old fillies compete in the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks, respectively. So without further ado, let's get to the analysis here. Got a lot of ground to cover, per usual. We kick things off with 3 big races this week here at Oaklawn. All of them are stakes races, and one of them is a stakes caliber type of race. It wasn't really a stake on the page in terms of condition, but certainly a prep for a stake down the road, and with a number of runners that have competed in stakes action. So let's start talking about race number 8 on Saturday, the first race we're going to talk about here. We go over the Purple Martin Stakes for 3-year-old filly, and good all for the Steve Asmussen barn, making a statement here in lifetime start number 3. Broke her maiden 2 starts ago at the Fair Grounds. Here's the replay for this win in the Purple Martin. She won by 4.5 lengths here. A $525,000 sale purchase by Yaupon. 94 buyer for stopping the clock in 1:08 and change. I think the most impressive thing with this performance was that she was stalking the pace down the backside into the far turn. She was very speedy in her first 2 starts, stalked the pace, kicked on when asked, so she showed a new dimension and she kicked on powerfully. Her first 2 career races at the Fairgrounds, she was getting a little bit tired late. She showed gameness in her maiden win, but this time around, she had a lot more energy in the tank when they asked her to relax, and Goodall was extremely impressive. Stakes record for this one here in the Purple Martin Stakes. Goodall, she is very much a rising star in the 3-year-old filly division. She's very speedy, just like her father, Yaupon, so don't expect this one to stretch out at any point. Expect her to keep at 1 turn, but the way she ran here, she certainly got a lot of ability. That is Goodall. You want to remember her from the Steve Asmussen barn. Eric Asmussen was aboard for that win. Race number 10 was our feature race of the day. A couple races later on Saturday, it was the Grade 3 Whitmore, $250,000 the pot there. The last prep before the big one for sprinters here at Oaklawn every year, the $500,000 Grade 3 Count Fleet. Let's take a look at this win. From off the pace, who do you think this is? This is Tejano Twist, coming off back-to-back wins now. He was very impressive 2 starts ago when he got a perfect pace scenario, and he got a good pace scenario again from well off the pace. He comes from way out of it, a mile behind. He exploded home here, and you can see Francisco Arrieta, who was aboard, he didn't have to move much on him. Let him go, took the lead, and then basically wrapped up on him late here. Got a 92 buyer for this win. Now, it's worth noting the track was very speedy that day. The last 5, 6, 7 races on the program, every first quarter mile was 21 and change. That is not something I've ever seen here at Oaklawn in terms of just how fast the track is. I've never seen a track here at Oaklawn in my 3 seasons being here where so many races, race after race, and all these sprint races we saw, they were going 21 and change. They were all sprint races for these times, and it obviously set up perfect for him. The track was very fast, obviously, and it very much changed the next day. We didn't see that type of fractions that we had seen on Saturday into Sunday, but Tejano Twist, very, very impressive. Really getting a good form. This horse had a bit of a losing streak at one point earlier this year, last year, but he looks a lot better for whatever reason than last season here at Oaklawn. He's always run well here and he's always been around, but this horse really looks like he's in his best form right now from what we saw 2-3 years ago when I was here. I remember 3 years ago, 3 seasons ago, my first call here against big sprinters in the sprint division. Tejano Twist won just like he has the last couple times. So it's on to the Count Fleet for him. That's on April 11th. Looking forward to that. Should be a fun day. That'll be Apple Blossom Day. Tejano Twist, very, very nice on Saturday afternoon. Finally, we go to Sunday's third race. Let's talk about this Arkansas bred group here. This is really a good prep for the Arkansas Breeders' Championship Stakes on closing weekend. In fact, a number of these runners in here have won the Arkansas Breeders' Championship already. Man in the Can, he was in this race. He won in 2020. Willow Creek Road won in 2023. And last year, 110 Stadium, who was in this race here, won in 2025, the Arkansas Breeders' Championship Stakes. And let's take a look at this run here from Willow Creek Road. He got the job done in this field of a half dozen. Again, a prep for the Arkansas Breeders. This horse got an easy lead. He got everything his own way, so he had absolutely no excuses. But I thought Jaime Torres, who was aboard, did a good job. Added the blinkers for Rudy Brisset, his trainer, and this horse showed a lot more early kick in the race. He was in the bridle early. He always looked good down the backside, and they basically stole it on the lead here, Willow Creek Road. Good confidence booster for this old pro heading into this year's Arkansas Breeders' Championship Stakes. Good effort. He got a 79 buyer for this Willow Creek Road. So with this race in mind, if he can run back to it, then he should be fairly competitive in the Arkansas Breeders' Championship Stakes. One of the early favorites for that race with this win in mind. All right, those are our three big races we wanted to talk about. Now it's time for our Hidden Gems segment. We haven't had this segment in a little while, and in fact, we have a number of hidden gems this week. For whatever reason, we saw quite a few horses this week that have potential. Maybe they didn't get the most desirable trips for them. So we got to get right into the action here. We go to race number 8 on Thursday. Let's take a look at Beauty Reigns, number 4 in this race. She's the gray horse right here in this second level allowance. It was a non-3 allowance, so runners that had won twice, they had yet to win 3 times. She placed 3rd in the Grade 1 test over the summer at Saratoga. As you can see here, this filly, she just got caught behind horses. The pace wasn't that fast. She wasn't in a great spot into the far turn between horses, and Jaime Torres, who was aboard, basically had to be really patient. Lost a little bit of position turning for home, and by the time she re-rallied and picked up the pace again, just was a little bit too late for her, had too much to do. She lost by a neck. I think she was clearly the best filly in this race. She was bet down to 3-5 favoritism for Bill Mott, who shipped this filly in. Should have won the race. You shrug your shoulders. Obviously, with a filly like this that's Grade 1 place, they're hoping for bigger and better performances down the road, and especially bigger and better races. So you'd rather get a bad trip in a race like this than in a bad trip in a Grade 1. Nonetheless, she is 1 second off the layoff for Bill Mott. You want to watch out for wherever she may appear in her second start in the form cycle. Race number 9 on Saturday. This was the Purple Martin Stakes. Actually, this was race number 8, and let's talk about Riverwind, the favorite in this race. Goodall won this race. We're going to take a look at this replay. We're going to look at this from start to finish. If you look at the start of the race here, she just broke a little bit slowly, Riverwind, and the reason I wanted to show this whole race is because I think you have to watch the whole race to really understand her type of trip. She was away from the gate last. It wasn't a horrible start, but it was a slow start. And what ended up happening is she sort of had to rush up here to get better position. She's one that broke her maiden very impressively on debut, and she was one that was allowed to stride out to the lead. She got a clear lead. She was able to kick on and win nicely. This time around, she gave her competitors a little bit of a head start. And after this run here down the back stretch, she sort of just had a tight trip down on the rail, and turning for home, you're going to see the real problem, the worst problems that she had, which was she sort of got bounced around. She tried to move through a spot on the inside, in my opinion. It was nobody else's fault. She was trying to get through a really tight spot turning for home, and she got bounced around a little bit. She had to check on the far turn once before that trouble. So this filly did not have a great trip. Now, would she have beat Goodall? No, she wouldn't have beat Goodall. Goodall was sensational this day, but she would have been closer, and Riverwind, in my opinion, with this bad trip and the grittiness to still just keep trying and run second, that tells me her maiden win was not a fluke. She can run. She's got ability. She's by Lexitonian, who is a one-turn horse. She looks to me like she's probably going to be best at one turn. I don't think she looks to me like a runner that's going to want to stretch out necessarily. If she does, it'll be a mile, maybe a one-turn mile. I think the one turn is what she wants to do. But she's a nice filly, and Riverwind, I think, proved that in this race, even though she didn't win. I thought she stamped herself as a filly with a promising future. We're going to also talk about 2 first-time starters that debuted in race 11 on Saturday. This was a 3-year-old maiden special weight filly race. And we're going to talk about 2 runners in here. And just like Riverwind, we're going to show you the whole race. Mi Amiga, she's number 4, and Bella Ella, she's number 5. Now, same situation as Riverwind. Want to show you this and want to show you the fact that in order to show you exactly the trips for both, we got to watch the whole race, especially with Mi Amiga. As we go through here, we're going to talk about Mi Amiga first. She steadied at the break, as you just saw. And what happened with her was she continued to make up steady ground. I mean, it was one of these things where she never really established great position in the race. And because of that, she had to continuously make up ground little by little to try to put herself in a spot turning for home to have a chance to win. And she continued to do that. And then in the final furlong, final 16th, she got a little bit tired. It was her first start since coming off a layoff. She ran once as a 2-year-old early in the 2-year-old season in the summertime and it didn't do much. I thought this was a better than looked effort. I think she's one you want to watch out for next time. If she gets a good trip, she's got a race under her belt. Bella Ella, she's number 5 in this race. She was coming from well off the pace for Donnie K. Von Hemmel, Mi Amiga, trained by Steve Asmussen. And I think Bella Ella is going to really like going 2 turns. She came with a nice run down the lane. Remember, Saturday the track was pretty speedy. It also played to speed horses. There weren't a lot of closers making up a lot of ground. First time starter here was making up ground down the lane, and she had a big gallop out. By the first turn, she was already with the leaders. She's a half to Hoosier Philly, who's a grade 2 winner. And Hoosier Philly was a very solid router. And also 2025 Virginia Derby winner, American Promise. She's a half sibling to him. So out of a broodmare that's produced, Bella Ella had some good works in the morning leading up to this. I'd watched it on Oaklawn.com, and she is one, like Mi Amiga, you want to watch out for next time. Absolutely. We go to our up-and-comer segment here. We're going to go to race number 6 on Sunday. It was a maiden special weight for 3-year-old sprinters. A number of high-priced horses in this race, and one of them was a $475,000 2-year-old in training sale purchase named American Man. Here is the replay from him. He's number 1. He went to the lead, just kept on going for trainer Dallas Stewart and owners Gervais Racing. Francisco Arrieta was up. By McLean's Music, this horse was very fast, had showed a lot of talent in the mornings, just going very easily at a good solid clip each and every work he worked out. And he was actually the clocker pick of the week for me last week, and he ran to his works. American Man. He got an 80 buyer for this. It'll be interesting to see where they put him next. If they try to stretch him out, he's out of a Tis Now mare, so there is route pedigree on the bottom side. McLean's Music, his prodigy, of course, the sire of American Man. They're like their dad, very much 1 turn. They can go 2 turns, but most of them are at their best when they're at 1 turn. So we'll see if he takes from the bottom side of the pedigree his dam side, and let's see if he can go a route. I don't know if they're going to sprint him next time out or if they're going to try to route him. My guess is they'll probably sprint him again, then and get him to the route, but that's a guess. I thought American Man showed a lot of promise here in lifetime start number 1. Also, Mum Doggy, a runner who came from off the pace from Mike Maker off a layoff. As I mentioned, the track was speedy pretty much all weekend. Now, the times were very fast on Saturday. Sunday, the times weren't quite as speedy, but the track still played to horses that were close to the pace. So, Mum Doggy coming from off the pace, thought it was a respectable run from him as well. He ran 2nd in the race, won by American Man. Let's get to the upcoming races this week. Of course, that was all the action we saw last week here at Oaklawn. We head to this week, Thursday through Sunday racing, first post each day, 12:30. And on Saturday afternoon, we've got 2 stakes races. The first is the La Patarelle overnight for fillies and mares at 1 1/16. Penwar, she's the morning line favorite, number 2. She ran 2nd to Apple Blossom contender Nirazzurri. Last time out, she's the one to beat in here. Also noting out of that race, Serafia in Just My Heels, who ran 3rd and 4th. They are also entered in the La Patarelle. Saffie Joseph Jr., of course, stabled in Florida. He has supplemented Sugarfish into the La Patarelle overnight. Now, Sugarfish won the 2024 Grade 2 Zenyatta in 2024 for trainer Jeff Mullins. Nice mare. She hasn't really quite run back to that since taking a layoff shortly after that race. She's looking to rebound now in the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn, was in the barn of Jeff Mullins. And Finally, grade 3 place, She's Looking Lucky, rounds out the field. She was grade 3 placed in the Cardinal Handicap at Churchill last year on the grass, but she's 1 for 8 on the dirt. So a field of 5 there, but a very contentious group and a good field for the La Patarelle Overnight. That's race number 5 on the program. Also, the big one, of course, this week is race number 9, the Essex Handicap. It's a grade 3, $500,000 is the pot. Here's the field for that. And of course, the headliner in this race, no doubt about who that headliner is, Skippylongstocking. Of course, he won the Oaklawn Handicap the first year I was calling races here, the first season I should say, in 2024. Let's take a look at his last race, Skippylongstocking, not in the Oaklawn Handicap, but in the Pegasus. That's right, a $3 million race. Came from off the pace to beat his stablemate, Breeders' Cup Classic winner White Abarrio here. He's the horse on the outside, making up ground in the white silk, yellow sleeves. Micah Husbands will ride for the first time. Tyler Gaffleone, the regular rider on this horse. He is in Louisiana at the Fair Grounds to ride Bella Ballerina for Brendan Walsh in a Kentucky Oaks prep race down there, the Fairgrounds Oaks. And Bella Ballerina right now one of the early favorites in the Oaks. So I'm not surprised Tyler Gaffleone wanted to stick with his Oaks filly. So Micah Husbands, a regular rider in Florida for Safi, getting the call from the bullpen to ride Skippylongstocking here. If he runs his race, he's the one to beat. If he runs back to that, he probably does win based on who's in here unless somebody else improves. But that's a question mark because this horse was a price on the Pegasus. We saw better form from him 2024, 2023, but he's an old pro, really converted back to that good form last time out. So let's see if he can put back-to-back good races together. He's a back-class horse. He's a very nice horse. It's just about putting those races back-to-back together. And if he can, or somewhere close to it, he'll be pretty tough in this race. If he goes back to negative form, then there are a couple other horses that could win this race, of course, and one of them is allowance winner San Siro. We saw him beat last year's Arkansas Derby winner Sandman in an allowance here. It was a dated allowance and a good race from off the pace. Christian Torres rode that day, but he hops off to ride a Todd Pletcher trained horse named Accelerize. This horse has been very solid. He placed second in the grade 3 Mineshaft last time out to Hit Show, who is a Dubai World Cup winner. So Accelerize has been running in Louisiana, a couple of races for trainer Todd Pletcher as of late. Now moving here to Oaklawn for the Essex Try. Todd Pletcher also has Life and Times in a race that's a $500,000 grade 3 event in Louisiana this weekend. So he's probably trying to separate those two. But between those three, it's a very high class edition of the Essex Handicap. That's on Saturday afternoon, race number 9 on an 11 race program. We're going to take a quick break here, folks, and then we'll be right back to talk about Derby and Oaks. Stick around.
Red Route 1 with a furlong to go, turning on the afterburners. He's gone 2.5 ahead, and Red Route 1 back to winning form as he takes the Essex.
Back at you here, Matt Dinerman in the Oaklawn Today's studios. It's time to talk Derby and Oaks, shall we? Yes, the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May, the Kentucky Oaks on the first Friday in May. They just announced this year, actually, the Kentucky Oaks to be run, I think, under the lights at 8 o'clock around that time, post time, to try to get a larger, broader audience on prime time. So they're going to move the Oaks to later in the evening. Let's talk about Derby and Oaks here, because we had a couple of races that we saw last week and into this week that we need to discuss here. We start with the Virginia Derby at Colonial Downs. Last year they implemented a 3-day meet around this time, and we see the Virginia Derby here won by Incredibolt, rebounded here to get the win after a very poor performance at Gulfstream. Trainer Riley Mott, the son of Bill Mott, indicating he ran very poorly at Gulfstream because he thought that the horse didn't take to the surface. And I guess he was right, because this horse really exploded down the lane for a nice win here. Worth noting, Butane rough trip for him. He ran third in the Southwest last time out here at Oaklawn. He was the favorite in this race. He got bottled up behind horses. Incredibolt ran awfully well. I mean, Butane would have had to really, really run a big race with a perfect trip to beat Incredibolt this day. But Butane, at the very least, second best. No doubt, though, Incredibolt, he is the very much star out of this race, and Riley Mott indicating they're going to train him up to the Kentucky Derby. 7 weeks. A little bit of an odd scenario in terms of timing here. A lot of trainers, they like to have 4 or 5 weeks heading into the Derby. Riley Mott's going to have to put that training cap on, keep this guy healthy, happy, and fit for 7 weeks, and getting him ready to go a distance of 1.25 miles. This was a 1-turn 1 1/8. This horse, very impressive, going 2 turns, 1 1/16 as a 2-year-old at Churchill Downs. So the 2 turns won't be a problem for him. I don't think the 1 1/4 is going to be a problem for him. The question will be, how does he do with 7 weeks in between races, heading into the biggest race of his life, going 1 1/4, and then on top of that, is he good enough? Because the field he faced here, lighter, much lighter than what he's going to see with all the heavy hitters in the Kentucky Derby, but he won the right way. So Incredibolt, very nice horse there out of the Mott stable. Jaime Torres aboard. Of course, Jaime wintering here at Oaklawn Park. This, from what I heard, is his last week until he moves back to Kentucky and gets ready for the Keeneland meet, which begins in the first week in April. Let's talk about this week's races, shall we? Because we talked about Virginia Derby. It was a Kentucky Derby points race. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Incredibolt, a horse that I think is improving. He's at the top of the leaderboard right now with 60 Kentucky Derby points. That will very much likely change. Speaking of that, let's take a look at the Derby points standings. Paladin, he's on top of the standings with Incredibolt. Paladin, winner of the Risen Star for Chad Brown. We're going to see him in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland. Incredibolt, we talked about his win in the Virginia Derby. And right behind him at 56 points, the Puma for Gustavo Delgado, who won the Tampa Bay Derby in Florida couple weeks back. Silent Tactic, he's up there, a number of them with 50 points. The 1-2 finishers in the Rebel, including Silent Tactic, ran second. Class President won the race. Of course, Silent Tactic also won our Southwest. You've got Commandment, the Fountain of Youth winner there. Iron Honor, winner of the Gotham. Patente for Bob Baffert, he won the San Felipe, and you go down the list here. So there's going to be a lot of changes on this board in the next couple weeks with all these Derby prep races coming into fruition for us and seeing exactly who runs well, who doesn't, who's hot, who's not. We go to this week. A lot of stuff going on between Fair Grounds and Kentucky with regards to Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks implications. And we're going to start talking about the Louisiana Derby. Here is the field for the Louisiana Derby. A number of good runners in this race here. Brad Cox has got a couple from Florida that just broke their maidens, Audubon and Easterly. Easterly's probably the better of the two. And don't forget about the Santa Anita recent maiden winner Blacksmith for trainer Bob Baffert, who was second to litmus test as a maiden in the Los Alamitos Futurity. Bob Baffert has not run a horse at the fairgrounds since 2012. Opportunity ran there over a decade ago. Emerging Market, he got a 97 Byron debut at Tampa Bay Downs in a first out 2-turn maiden race, but his rival that day, Power Shift, in his next start did not run well at all. So it'll be interesting how Emerging Market heads to Louisiana, how he does. Universe, he was 4th in the Risen Star, is owned by Hot Springs Connections, among them the Gasaway family, who are connected with Mystic Dan. Pavlovian's in this race. He won the Sunland Derby at New Mexico last month. And Spirit of Royal, he broke his maiden here at Oaklawn, but failed to fire in the Southwest. He's getting back to Louisiana for a try at a Kentucky Derby slot and getting some points there for trainer Dallas Stewart. But after all that, we still have a replay to show you. Let's take a look at the top 2 finishers in this, or actually the 2nd and 3rd place finishers in the Risen Star, Golden Tempo and Chip Honcho. Chip Honcho ran 2nd in this race. Golden Tempo ran 3rd. It's worth noting Golden Tempo, he won the Lecomte 2 starts ago and then sort of just ran a subpar race here. Trainer Cherie DeVoe putting the blinkers on. Chip Honcho, he always shows up, just a hard-knocking guy. Not at the top of the class in terms of his 3-year-old group, in my opinion, but he is one that should give a relatively good showing here at the very, very least. He always shows up. We basically went through the whole field here of the Louisiana Derby. As you can see, a lot of different angles, many ways to go in terms of handicapping here, and it's a good group. You've got a lot of horses with plenty of talent in here. So Fairgrounds putting on a good running here of the Louisiana Derby this year. Of course, it's a big day in Louisiana. They've got 14 races on the program. Also, the Fair Grounds Oaks. Let's take a look at that field here. And no doubt about who's the one to beat in here. I think it's a two-horse race between Bella Ballerina and Love and Trust. Love and Trust, she easily broke her maiden in her two-turn debut last time out for Cherie DeVaux, and can very well take the leap forward in lifetime start number 3. But Bella Ballerina is the one we want to show to you here. Let's take a look at this replay. She won the Grade 2 Rachel Alexandra here off a 2.5-month break on February 14th. Now, Brendan Walsh can get him ready to run off these layoffs, but he is one that's very good at getting horses to improve over time. He's great at developing horses. And second, third start off of layoffs, Brendan's horses typically take a step forward. So I'm thinking Bella Ballerina will in here. Her goal ultimately is not to win the Grade 2 Rachel Alexandra. It's to run in Grade 1s, win those for Godolphin, and then one day see her in the biggest Grade 1s in the country we have for filly and mare routers. That's their hope. Become a brood mare one day after that. So Bella Ballerina, I think she will improve with that race under her belt. I think Love and Trust can improve. Everybody else, I feel like we already know where we're at with everybody else in that field. Like the Louisiana Derby, there are points. This one for the Oaks. Unlike the Louisiana Derby, I don't think it's as wide open. I think that there are two runners in here that are clearly the ones to beat. That's the Fair Grounds Oaks in Louisiana. Now we're going to move northeast to Kentucky. And at Turfway Park, they've got their big night. It's on synthetic surface, remember that? So these races all not on a traditional dirt surface. Let's take a look at this very contentious field in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Look at this purse, $777,000. I don't know where they came up with that, but nonetheless, it's a good pot of money here, and it's a full field like we see in a lot of races at Turfway on the synthetic. The horse to beat in this race is for trainer Brad Cox. Irad Ortiz has the mount here. Full effort. Let's take a look at his run from off the pace last time out. And he just got beat a neck here in the Battaglia Stakes. The winner, we're going to see him in the Bluegrass Stakes on dirt at Keeneland. So full effort. The one to beat in this race. Came on with a real strong rally down the lane. Unlucky loser here. Didn't time it quite right, but got very, very close. Very solid effort from him. He's going to be coming from off the pace. And we see a lot of off the pace horses win this race, especially since they moved from dirt to synthetic at Turfway a number of years ago. So I think this horse seems to have the right profile to be pretty competitive. Also in the race, pretty interesting contender, Stark Contrast. His biggest run, he didn't win, but he ran second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Del Mar in November. Makes his second start off a layoff. He won the Eddie Logan Stakes on grass for trainer Michael McCarthy in California, shipping across the country for this race on synthetic. Try to get some Kentucky Derby points. And finally, Chaos Agent, he's one I want to note. He won on debut at Gulfstream, looked pretty good doing it, but he won on synthetic. So now they're getting to synthetic once again in a much tougher group. $350,000 purchase here, owned by Pin Oak Stud, the same owners as Incredibolt for trainer Riley Mott. So Chaos Agent for trainer Josie Carroll, one that maybe can improve after that race in Florida at Gulfstream Park. Also at Turfway is the Bourbonette Oaks. This is a Kentucky Oaks points race. Here's the field, good sized field of course here, not a surprise. And the top three finishers in the local prep for the Bourbonette Oaks, the Cincinnati Trophy Stakes, are in this race. Resplendence is the winner. Here's the look at the replay here. And Lovely Gray ran second. Private Purchase by Go-Go Gray Stable, that's Barstool Sports' Dave Portnoy, purchased this runner off her last race here, and she's now first start for the New Connections in this race, as well as Resist, who is third in this race. So the top three placers in the Cincinnati Trophy moving on to the Bourbonette Oaks, which is something we typically see. A few others in here we'll mention. Scratch It was second on the turf in the Surfer Girl Stakes at Santa Anita. Figures to get bet for Brad Cox. Bless Her, number 8, has a huge pedigree. Comes off a nice maiden win and won by 6 that day on synthetic at Gulfstream. So very similar to Chaos Agent, but just a filly. And then finally, La Ville Luminaire. She won the Blue Northern Stakes at Santa Anita from Michael McCarthy. So Michael McCarthy's taken some turf form with a couple horses at Turfway this particular day and getting them into these big races for big pots. Those are the main contenders in the Bourbonette Oaks. That is on Saturday at Turfway Park. Finally, before we say farewell till next week, Let's talk about Arkansas Derby a little bit early. Here is a look at the early probables. Now, this is subject to change. We could have a couple come on into the entry box in a few days here. We could see one or two of these maybe not make the race for whatever reason, but these are early probables as of right now. I think the big star in here, Silent Tactic, really cool horse. He's not the star in this race in terms of the talk of the town. He's sort of right behind Renegade, a horse for trainer Todd Pletcher that has been working regularly in Florida at Todd's string down there. And Renegade's a horse that has been thought of for a long time. He comes off a win in the Sam F. Davis at Tampa Bay Downs, and he has freshened up and is really keying in on this Arkansas Derby to try to get more points. Looking at the points, he currently sits 14th with 25 points. Let's take a look at this workout from him recently. Thank you to our friends at XBTV for this video here. And Renegade, he's on the outside, went 101-2 in this work here. I think really the key in this work is the end of it, because this horse was very workmanlike outside of his workmate, but at the very end of the work on the gallop out, this horse went right by the workmate and galloped out with the ears pricked up, looked like he wanted to do more. He's a horse that's going to love distance. He's a horse that's getting better each and every race. He is going in the right direction 100%. So Renegade, I think he's going to be the one to beat. And here's something that's very interesting about Renegade, or more specifically his jockey, Irad Ortiz Jr. It was announced on Monday. Irad, of course, one of the top riders not only in America but around the world. He will be in town to ride this horse. He was aboard for the Sam F. Davis. And what's really interesting about this isn't the fact that Irad's on. What's interesting is that he's hopping off Commandment for Brad Cox. And Commandment won the Fountain of Youth in Florida, and he's one of the favorites in the Florida Derby. Next week, on the same day as Arkansas Derby, Irad had to make a decision. He's choosing Renegade in this race. He's hopping off mounts on Dubai World Cup night, which is overseas in Dubai. He could have gone over there to ride for big money. Instead, he is taking off all of these horses to ride Renegade, who broke his maiden in the Sam F. Davis. That tells you Irad thinks this is the one right here. Out of all the horses that he wants to be on, he's choosing this one, especially the change from Commandment. And he rides first call for Brad Cox in Kentucky and Florida, hopping off to ride for Todd Pletcher. That's telling us he thinks Renegade's a really good horse, and he thinks Renegade, out of any of the horses he rides, is the one for the Kentucky Derby this year. So Irad will be in town for Arkansas Derby. Renegade will be in town as well. Should be a really fun week. That's next week, Thursday through Saturday racing. That's Arkansas Derby week. We'll get to that next week. We'll have a special guest on. You'll see who that is next week. But we've got a good guest lined up for you next week. Arkansas Derby week on Out of the Starting Gate. That does it for another edition of Out of the Starting Gate. I'm Matt Dinerman here. Thank you to Oaklawn for sponsoring our show each and every week. And a reminder, if you like this content, make sure to subscribe to the Oaklawn YouTube page. Of course, we have weekly shows of Out of the Starting Gate, as well as Oaklawn content all season long, even during the off season. Have a great racing week, folks. A lot to cover and a lot to watch out for. We'll be back next week on Arkansas Derby week. But for now, enjoy this week and have a great rest of your day.